Hello, and welcome to week 4 of Swing Big, a group focused on reawakening and redefining masculinity, a group focused on stepping up to the plate and taking a big swing at life. Let's jump right in today because we have a lot to cover. In our time last week, we defined a man as someone who rejects passivity, accepts responsibility, leads courageously, and expects a higher reward. We also asked the question, what does it mean to reject passivity, and how can it be applied to our lives? So let's focus there today. A real man rejects passivity. So what exactly are we rejecting? Oxford describes passivity as acceptance of what happens without active resistance or response. I think it's important to delineate between peaceful and passive as we start this conversation, because while similar, the application is very different. A person who is peaceful can be in harmony with others or in a state of oneness or flow. A person who is passive, on the other hand, is unintentional, defaults to others, and honestly can become a burden on others because they will not and do not contribute. Rejecting passivity requires men to get up, to speak up, to play an active role in relationships, to have a point of view or moral and ethical standard, then act upon it. Women, think about what it was that attracted you to your boyfriend or husband. Was it how well they sat on the couch and quietly complied with every request? Please don't answer if you have young kids. How well they disengaged from conversation and relationships, letting you drive friendships and raise kids. How they simply let life happen to them. We can go anywhere to find the answer to the question. Go the stories we were told as a kid. Prince Charming doesn't pursue Cinderella. He just waits for her to come back, right? Of course not. In Titanic, Jack just lets Rose go off and live her unfulfilling life with someone else, right? Nope. In Gladiator, the daughter of the emperor feels strongly for Russell Crowe because of how compliant he is when he's thrown into slavery after his wife and son are murdered. That certainly gets viewer attention. The soon-to-be Queen of England falls for Mel Gibson, the leader of the opposing forces in Braveheart, because he'd rather take a back seat to what's happening in his country, right? Absolutely not. I like rejects passivity because it sounds even stronger than active. The world needs men who reject passivity. The world needs husbands who partner with their wives, who work together to create a shared future, to take care of their families. And I'm not just talking about physically protecting your families, but being there mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. You need to be there across the board. The world needs men who are engaged and intentional dads in the development of their children and makes it a priority. The world needs men to get off their literal and figurative butts and go out there and do something. But let's be clear here. We have to be intentional about how and where we reject passivity. We all have the crazy uncle at family holidays who is arguably too active and needs to calm it down a bit. We also have the cousin, sibling, friend who's active in everything but effective in nothing other than being a wet blanket. So what's the litmus test of rejecting passivity? I once heard someone describe the choices in life as taste or principle. A taste is something you prefer but would be happy to defer to a stronger opinion. A principle is something that is worth ruffling feathers over, something you aren't going to let go of. If your life is full of tastes, you're probably far too passive. If your life is full of principles, you're probably active, but without direction. If you don't have or communicate taste or principles, you better go check your heart rate because you're not contributing here. But if you have a reasonable balance of taste and principles that you live out, you're probably on the right track. Bringing it back, a real man rejects passivity, accepts responsibility, leads courageously, and expects a higher reward. We did a pretty good job beating up rejects passivity this week. I'd like to encourage everyone to reflect on the conversation and where you might fall on the spectrum of passive to active. I'd also encourage you to ask someone outside of your immediate circle where they see you on the spectrum. And I intentionally say this because a disobedient teenager believes he or she wants a passive dad, but actually needs a dad who rejects passivity. A controlling wife may believe she wants a passive husband, but actually needs a man who rejects passivity. The world needs men who reject passivity and are active. Looking forward to next week, I'd like you to start thinking about one question. What does it mean to you to accept responsibility? Is it cleaning up after yourself and taking care of things? Making sure you pay your bills, or is it something more? What does it mean to accept responsibility as a man? Thanks again for coming back to join the conversation. Please add any comments you have. I'd love to respond to them. In parallel, please subscribe if you find the conversation meaningful and like to be a part of the journey. We're off to a good start, and I've really enjoyed the thinking. It's been good. We'll figure this out, redefine masculinity, reawaken masculinity, and once again, step up to the plate and swing big. Thank you.